Today we are going to use what we have learned about percents to solve percent problems. So these would be the types of questions that would come up, like maybe you're going out to dinner and you need to tip the server and you need to find 15 or 20% of the bill. So how we do this, if we're finding the percent of a number, that would be an example. You would change your percent to a fraction, which we previously learned how to do. Then you multiply by the whole. So for example, if I wanted to know what 20% of 60 is, that would be an example where maybe I'm out to dinner, my bill is $60, and I want to leave a 20% tip. I could calculate that to see that I'm going to leave $12. So let's try one of these. So we're going to say 25% of 40 is what number? So when we multiply, you can also think that word of, that tells you to multiply. If we find half of 40, we take 1/2 times 40. If we're finding 3/4 of 40, 3/4 times 40. So we're going to go this way, and we're going to multiply. So first thing we want to do is take 25%. We want to change it to a fraction, which always means we put it over 100. And then we simplify it. In this case, I'm going to divide them both by 25. So I get 1/4. Now we're going to take that 1/4 times 40. So I have 1/4 times 40. So I have 1 times 40 and 4 times 1. That's going to simplify to 10. So this means 25% of 40 is 10. So that's just changing to a fraction and multiplying. Another method we could use is by creating a ratio table. So we're trying to find the part. So if we want 60% of 150, we're going to use a ratio table to find that part. We want one row to be the part and the other row is going to be the whole. So let's set this up. Part to whole. Make my ratio table here. And then my percent is always going to be the first column. So the first column is always the percent. So in this case, that's 60%. We know that that means 60 out of 100. We want to figure out what is 60% of 150. So we want 150 to be the whole. We want to figure out what this number would be. So now we just have to use our knowledge of ratio tables. I need to figure out a number that I could divide down to get down to and then multiply back up to 150. So one option that I think of is 50. I can divide 100 by 2 to get 50, and I know I can divide 60 by 2 as well. So I'm going to put a 50 in here. And 100 divided by 2 gets me to 50. So I need to divide 60 by 2 as well. That's going to give me 30. Then to get back up to 150, we multiply by 3. So we go up here and multiply by 3 as well. And end up with 90. So that means 60% of 150 is 90. And 60% is a little bit more than half, a little bit more than 50%. So it should make sense that 90 is a little bit more than half of 150. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the page here. And then pause your video and just try those 4 questions up at the top. When you're done, you can unpause your video and then check your work. Okay, I use the fraction method on all of these. You could use the ratio table as well, but I just multiply them all by the fractions. So I changed 90% to 9/10 and multiplied by 20. 75%, I change it to 3/4 and multiplied by 32, and so on. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and look at how we can find the whole if we're given the part and the percent. So this time we're going to find the whole. We're writing the percent as a fraction again, and then dividing the part by the fraction. So it's kind of like with fact families in elementary school. When you learn about fact families, we're essentially working backwards. 20% of 60 is 12. We saw that on the first page. So we saw 20% is 1/5 of times 60 equals 12. So we can work backwards and say 12 divided by 1/5 is 60. So that's what we're going to do here. 75% of what number is 48? So this time we're going to work backwards this way. And so we're going to end up with 48 divided by 75%. So we can't just take 48 divided by 75. Again, we have to change that 75% to a fraction, which means I place it over 100. And we can simplify that down to 3/4. So now I end up with 48 divided by 3/4. And remember, when we divide fractions, we keep that first fraction or number the same. We switch to multiplication and then get the reciprocal of that second fraction. We can also cross simplify so that we don't have to simplify in the end. 48 and 3 can both be divided by 3. So this becomes 16, this becomes 1. So I just have 16 times 4. We can always do the scratch work, but I can also think 10 times 4 is 40, 6 times 4 is 24, and then add those together. So what this means is that 75% of 64 is 48. 75% of what number is 48? 64, our answer is that what number? All right, let's try another one of these, but using the ratio table method this time. So we want to figure 120% of what number? 72. So we're finding the whole here. We're going to use a ratio table to find the whole, and then get an equivalent ratio with 72 as the part. So we're still going to set this up part to whole. So we still want our 2 rows to be part to whole. And we still want that first column to represent the percents. Which in this case is 120%. So we know if that's the percent, it's 120 out of 100. Okay, we want 72 to be the parts, and we're trying to figure out then what would the whole be if 72 was the part. We can't go directly from 120 to 72. There's nothing I can divide by. So we do need to get it down to a smaller number that we can multiply back up to 72. So I need to think of common factors for 120 and 72. You have 6, 12. That's where my mind goes first of all. So I'm going to use 6, and I know that 120 divided by 20 is going to get me to that 6. So I need to go down here and divide that by 20 as well. So I get 5 here. Then 6 times 12 gets me back up to 72. So I'm going to do 5 times 12 down here. So we get 60. So what this means is, so 120% of 60 is 72. 60 becomes that what number? All right, go ahead and try 2 of these on your own here down at the bottom, numbers 5 and 6. Pause your video, give those a try. You can do the division, dividing by the fraction, or you can set up a ratio table and then unpause the video to check your work. All right, number 5, I got 200, and number 6, I got 50. Okay, go ahead and flip to the back. We're going to work through a word problem here. This one kind of combines what we have done with area to what we've now done with percents. So we have the width of a rectangular room that's 80% of its length. Ultimately, we want to figure out what is the area of the room. Well, okay, we know the area is length times width. Okay, easy enough. Here's our length, 15 feet. The problem is we don't know the width. So what we do know is that the width is 80% of its length. So what we need to do is find 80% of that length, and the length is 15 feet. So here's our first step. Find 80% of 15. So First thing I'm going to do is change my 80% to a fraction. So that 80% becomes 80 over 100. I can divide those both by 20, so that becomes 4/5. So now I'm going to find 4/5 of 15. I'm going to cross simplify here. 5 and 15 can both be divided by 5. So I'm just left with 4 times 3. That's 12. So that means that my width over here is 12 feet. Now I can find my area. Using our formula, length times width, I'm going to do 15 times 12. I'm going to use some mental math strategies here. If I break 12 up into 10 and 2, 15 times 10 is 150. 15 times 2 is 30. And add those together to get 180. So we would restate and answer this question, what is the area of the room? So I would say the area of the room is 180 feet squared. Okay, so down here on this last one, very similar. We have a rectangular stage, and the width is 55% of its length. The stage is 120 feet long, so that's our length. You are going to find the area. So first you need to find 55% of the 120 feet. Then you're going to take that and plug that in to get your area. And then tell me the area is blank feet squared. So go ahead and pause your video, give that a try on your own, and then unpause when you're ready to check your work. Okay, so I found 55% of 120 feet, and I got 66. Went down here and did my length times width, 120 times 66. So the area is 7,920 feet squared.